The Family of the Vurdalak, a story by Leo Tolstoy. Right from the start, you were a thief, you stole my heart, and now you're willing victim. The family stood out in front of their hut. They were all looking at the horizon, watching in the distance off by the edge of the forest, watching, waiting for the father of the family, Gorcha, to come back home. They stood there looking out at that cloudy, dark horizon. Sun had nearly set by now. They all stood in front of the house, waiting. The youngest brother, Pyotr, asked his sister, Zdenka, "Во сколько он сказал? Во сколько он ушел? What time did he leave?" Well, he left at 8 o'clock, Zdenka said. 8 p.m. I know. I heard the bells from the old monastery up the hill. I know it was 8 o'clock. Okay, there's still time. That was 10 days ago, but there's still time. It's not exactly 10 days because it must be half past 7 right now. We still have time. Let you see the parts of me that weren't all that pretty, and with every touch, you fixed them. The old man, Gorcha, had told them that he was leaving and he would be back before 8 days had passed because he was going to hunt the Vurdalak. But he told them, if I come back after 10 days have passed, after those 10 days, if I come back then, it won't be me at all. I will have been turned into a Vurdalak, and I will have come back to suck your blood.
Ew.
In your sleep, whoa, things you never said to me. Whoa, say you've hardly had enough of our love, our love. They all stood there watching the horizon. The oldest son, Doroshka, he was a stern, serious man. Doroshka stood there with his wife and his child, Misha. Doroshka was looking out. He said, "You're sure that it was 8 o'clock that he left?" "What time did the old man leave? 8 o'clock on the dot." "Yes, I heard the monastery bells," his sister said. He said the old man because everyone knows that a Vurdalak, a vampire in the Slavic countries, if you say his name, you might be invoking him. So people know if there's a chance someone might have turned into a Vurdalak. They know never to say their name. But then Misha, he looked up at his father, said, "Papa, а почему нельзя сказать, нельзя говорить о дедушке? Papa, why can't we talk about Grandpa? Why is Grandpa taking so long?" He gave his son a stern look. He shook him by the shoulder. "What, Papa? What's wrong? I want to see Grandpa." Shh. Everyone shushed the child because they knew the danger of saying the old man's name. They didn't tell him, but they all knew that it was possible that Grandpa might not be Grandpa anymore. "Say that now you've had enough of our love, our love." Well, right then they looked at the tree line and they saw a figure coming towards them in the darkness. Well, Zdenka, she cried out, it's the one, it's him. It's him, he made it back. He's okay." But the oldest, Doroshka, he stood there, stared, serious. He watched this figure. The figure was limping, walking on a cane. The figure came up and sure enough, it looked like their father, that long silvery mustache, long silver hair. He was limping with a cane. He was bleeding. He seemed to have a wound underneath his coat. Pyotr ran up to him. Pyotr, the youngest, ran up. Papa, what happened? You're wounded." The old man limped up and he pushed Pyotr to the side. He said, "Leave me alone, you old fool. Don't you dare touch me." He limped up to the house. Doroshka just stared at him. "You're wounded?" He said, "Yes, I'm wounded." They could see the blood dripping from his coat as he walked up. He walked up, and at that moment, the family dog ran up. The dog came up, but instead of greeting the old man, the dog just stood there, growling, barking, yapping at the old man's heels like he didn't even recognize him. Daroshka stared. His wife stared. Pyotr said, Papa, there's something wrong with the dog. The old man, he said, of course there's something wrong with that dog. What, he doesn't even recognize me anymore? I've only been gone 10 days. He doesn't recognize me after 10 days? Daroshka leaned into his wife. He said 10 days. He just admitted that he's been gone more than 10 days. It's not him anymore. He's not the same person. Pyotr leaned in. He said, brother, we have to wait. Just wait. The old man said, Pyotr, listen, take out your pistol. Pyotr, he pulled it out. Kill that dog. What? No, Pop, I raised him from a pup. What do you mean? Kill the dog, I said. If he doesn't know me anymore, he's no use to us. Papa, no, please. Пожалуйста. So the old man took the pistol from Pyotr, shot the dog himself. Pyotr said, Papa, why? But you know, why'd you do that? I raised that dog from a pup. I loved it. Because that dog was no good to us anymore. Let's go inside. The old man, he limped inside. Everyone, they tried to help him, but he pushed them all off. And he took a seat by the fire. He was trembling. They saw that he was pale, pasty pale. Well, his daughter Stienka went and brought him some homemade liquor. He took a sip, but he spat it out into the fire. The fire flames leaped up. They tried to bring him some mutton and some rice, but he said it turned his stomach. He couldn't eat that food either. So everyone just sat and stared at the old man, the firelight glistening in his eyes. They asked him, how did it go? Did you find the Vurdalak? Did you catch him? Did you kill him? Yes, I found him. The old man reached under his coat and he pulled out the severed head of the Vurdalak, held it up by the hair. Yeah. I found it. All right. He held it up. The skin was pale on that face, but Daroshka noticed that it was not as pale as the old man's skin. Well, they sat there in silence for a while. Finally, the old man stood up and he walked to his bedroom without saying a word, limped off to bed. Daroshka stood and he walked over to the table and he picked up something that looked like a long steak. His brother Pyotr said, no, Daroshka, what are you doing? He says, we have to be ready for anything. We don't know if that's him or not. So they all went to bed cautiously. And one by one, everyone fell asleep. Except at midnight, with the full moon glowing, the full moon lighting up the ruins of that old monastery with the old bells. The only person awake was little Misha, Daroshka's son. Misha, he woke up because something was tapping at his window. He walked over, opened up the window. There was his grandfather, the old man. Misha said, Dedushka, I'm so happy to see you. I want you to tell me stories. Tell me stories about when you went out to hunt the Vurdalak. The old man said, I'll tell you stories. Come with me, and I'll tell you the stories. And he lifted the boy out the window. Well, Daroshka and his wife, they only woke up when they noticed that Misha was not in bed with them. They saw the window hanging open, and they looked off in the distance. They saw the figure of the old man carrying that boy, carrying him toward the trees. Well, they ran out of the house. They fired shots from their pistols. They ran and they cried out the name of the saints, of the Virgin, of the name of the Holy Trinity. They cried out and they ran to the trees. They found the boy lying there in the trees, unconscious, but they were able to wake him up. The boy didn't remember anything. They didn't see the old man after that, but they had to be thankful for what they had. They didn't know at what point the old man stopped being the father and grandfather, at what point he stopped being the person who loved them and who they loved, but they had their son. And for that, they were thankful. Just give me a reason, just a little bit's enough. Just a second, we're not broken, just bent. We can learn to love again. It's in the stars, it's been written on the scars of our hearts. We're not broken, just bent. We can learn to love again. Right from the start, you were a thief, you stole my heart. I, your willing victim. The Family of the Vurdalak by Tolstoy.